Hello, everyone. Welcome back to EGX Digital. If this is the first panel you're watching, make sure you go find the others. Also, thank you for choosing this one. You won't know me, I'm Caitlin. I run a very small site called Mind Games, where I talk about video games and mental health. And today I am
doing just that with four very lovely people who will introduce themselves now.
Hi, my name is Becky. I am the Community Events Coordinator at Special Effect, which is a UK-based charity who help people with severe physical disabilities, immediate dog interruption there, severe physical disabilities to access video games.
I am Alex. I'm one of the co-founders at Polygon Treehouse. We just released Rookie, which is a modern adventure game, which, as well as being a fantastical adventure and dealing with Scandinavian folklore, it also tackles themes of loss and grief and reconciliation.
Hi, I'm Mxiety. I'm a mental health talk show host on Twitch, and I'm also an ambassador for Safe in Our World, which is a charity dedicated to bringing mental health awareness to the gaming world.
And I am Johnny. I am head of video for a website called Dicebreaker, which is all about tabletop games. But before then, I used to work in video games as part of the video team at Eurogamer, where I did a series involving video games and mental health and how they intersect. And I once did a TEDx talk, so that's me blowing my own trumpet there.
No, everyone here is very good at what they do. Thankfully, everyone said yes. We've got a range of people who help out with charities, people who've spoken about mental health themselves, people who have worked on games. Rough overview of how this is going to work. It's going to be about 3 sections. So we're going to talk about representation of mental health in gaming, both the good and the bad. We'll talk about using it at games as a coping mechanism, which is a big part for me. And we're going to talk about the communities that get built around games, both as genres, as worldwide communities such as those for Dicebreaker and Eurogamer. And then we'll round it off. So we will hop right into representation. Personally, I'm very open about my mental health. I suffer from depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress. I'm very open about these things, and obviously not everyone is. And seeing people who suffer from the same conditions as myself in video games can be a very positive or negative experience. So, for example, one of my favourite games is What Remains of Edith Finch, and its representation of depression with Edith's brother. It's a brilliant sequence. If you haven't played the game, I definitely recommend it, but it is a very well told story of someone who's struggling. And yeah, if we open the floor to kind of where people have seen representation they like, maybe ones they don't like, go for it.
There is, I'll just start, I'll run on this because I do love this stuff and I discuss it on my channel. There is some awesome representation of how to help somebody through a mental health crisis in Stardew Valley. A lot of people in general find that game just relaxing and soothing, and it puts you to ease. It's very redundant tasks that kind of as you approach them, they become easier and easier to do. So it's very easy to kind of lose yourself and lose the time that you spend in this game. And as you get to know the characters, you have different events that happen. And one of the events that happens is you encounter, if you get very close to Shane, you encounter that he has suicidal episode where he wishes to end his life. And you have a few choices, and generally it steers you in the proper direction of what to say that would help him. And the ultimate goal is he wakes up, it kind of flashes over to the medical center. He wakes up and the doctor at the medical center thanks you for bringing him in and tells you that he will be getting help from professionals and that you did a really good job by not trying to take it on yourself, but bring him where he would get the help he needs. And I think that overall, that's a very well put together message. And the whole scene is about 10 minutes, but it has a really big impact. And I remember watching it and pointing at it and being like, oh my God, it's so good. This is so good. This is so good.
I would say one of the games that I played and I found really powerful was Celeste. I came to it quite late, and I think I had an idea. I knew it was meant to be a super hard platforming game. I wasn't expecting it to affect me as emotionally as it did. I think just guessing in what we try and do with our game, and that telling a story through the actual the gameplay, and in Celeste you're gradually climbing this mountain, overcoming this great big barrier, and I found that it was really powerful. Even though second by second and minute by minute you're doing this platforming, the story and was really well told. And I think one of the really powerful things about games and tackling mental health is that sometimes it doesn't have to be like really in your face the whole time. In Celeste, it almost gives you a breathing space. That's definitely something we try and do in Rurky. So it's almost like you can deal with some of these topics, and then also you can allow breathing space for the player to reflect on these things. So they need time to take it all in. And I think just generally, it's really interesting. Games obviously tackle some of these issues on a big variety of levels, and I think it's really nice. It's quite a powerful thing to allow people, if they have mental health issues, to see people struggling with some of those or dealing with some of those issues. Also, for people who want an insight, it's a way of stepping into someone else's shoes a little bit, and maybe encouraging a bit of empathy and less fear of mental health and what it is.
Go for it, Becky.
I wish I'd gone first because I was totally going to talk about Celeste. But I just going back to what Caitlin said, and What Remains of Edith Finch was something I watched my husband play through recently. We kind of play through together, and the variety of different issues. I'm aware of, I don't want to give any spoilers, but the different characters that you kind of visit throughout the game represented so many different issues, from loss and grieving to PTSD to that paranoia, and so there were so many different sort of mental health issues explored, and going through a trauma, that kind of thing, and it's just one of those really amazing games where it seemed, from my perspective, to deal and present each topic quite sensitively, as far as I could see from my perspective. So yeah,
I think for me it feels somewhat obvious, but I think Life is Strange was a really big one for me in terms of it's the particularly the first season and the prequel Before the Storm for me was such a powerful exercise in empathy, and because every character, if you dig deep enough, has something going on, and it's not necessarily an actual diagnosed mental health condition or anything like that, but it is just its central themes are so sort of wrapped up in the idea that being a teenager is hard, and that there is a lot to deal with because you're literally learning how to be a person while there's all this other stuff going on. And obviously it does tackle more direct themes, like for example in the first season there is a very poignant scene involving an attempted suicide, and the kind of repercussions of that kind of echo through the rest of the game. But there are also nice little incidental moments you can miss as well. For example, you can find some antidepressants in your best friend's bathroom, and it never comes up in conversation between the two of them, but the protagonist takes a moment to be like, oh wow, I guess they really have been going through some stuff while I've not been talking to them. And I think Life is Strange as a series has been really important in terms of building a community and that is comfortable talking about mental illness and supporting one another and accessing resources in a way that's really impressive and quite moving, I think.
I agree with that. I think a lot of that came during Before the Storm. Because as much as Kate was the main poignant focus when it came to tackling mental health issues in the first season, but then you dig in Before the Storm, you dig into Chloe coping with her father's death and the changes, and then Rachel dealing with, well, all of that.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah. And I found like a lot of people took moments from that and just kind of essentially managed to attach resources and things to it. So whenever people went back and revisited those moments, they would find kind of lots of posts with resources and references, and it was very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always between that and Stardew Valley when it comes to representation. And then another one I think that people don't expect and I know I already went, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna
No, it's fine.
But another one that I think people don't expect is Kingdom Hearts, or I think they don't read into it as much. But one of the characters literally treads through her own darkness for 10 years.
Aqua. Oh.
Yeah, in which she is constantly told that she's not worthy, her friends don't love her, they're not gonna come save her, she's not good enough, she will never help anybody, like all of the stuff that literally are things depression, tells you. And so it's not as like, Life is Strange is very much like, here are mental health themes, right? And you're prepared for it. But I feel like Kingdom Hearts is one of those where you learn empathy through the means of like, oh, I'm just playing a game. Oh, I got to save this person out of darkness. Darkness is a common metaphor for, both how we feel inside and just bad things. So you can kind of totally gloss over it, or you can stop for a moment and be like, whoa, she's been depressed for 10 years. Whoa.
When you go from Donald Duck's voice to a heavy montage about depression, it's a little bit sharp.
Right. But they get you. You're...
That's one of the great things about games and that sort of form of storytelling is that you are, in many cases, playing through the protagonist or playing through the person who is going through it or dealing with it or helping somebody deal with it in some way. And if you're a good writer, you can write something that's kind of, sweeps you off your feet in that kind of way and hits you like you've just described.
Yeah.
Probably one of the really powerful things about video games in tackling mental health issues is that you're, as a player, you're an active part of the story, and so you're playing through scenarios, and I guess in a different way to watching a film or reading a book, you have to make choices about the scenarios you've been placed in. It makes you does really put you in someone else's shoes and makes you consider things from different people's perspectives, and maybe that even if it's tackling some issues, the ones that you maybe dealt with, the fact that you're taken out of your skin and put in someone else's, and you've got it's slightly removed from yourself, that maybe may allow people to to help with things that they're dealing with, working through things they're dealing with in the real world too.
And it's always it's interesting to see how games tackle it, because some games do brilliantly with mental health, such as the ones we've discussed, such as bigger titles like Senua's Sacrifice, which is very well researched into psychosis. And then obviously you have ones that try but kind of fall flat, which for me, I appreciate them trying.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry.
No, do go on.
I know, to say from developer point of view, I think when you're making a game, you get quite close to it. It's hard to kind of see what it is sometimes, and I think we tried really hard with the story of Rookie, and in it the hero Tube, she's we don't do lots of exposition at the start. We just drop you into the game and don't really tell you what's going on. We allow the player to explore the scenarios and what's happening, but it does deal with themes of loss. And when you're making the game, you obviously you're trying to make sure you're making a game that treats the subject matter seriously, but also engages people as well and isn't too didactic. And at the end of 3 years, you're a bit too close, so you don't really know how the story or the themes are going to land. And so it's really, from that side of things, it's really interesting. And we were really relieved to the response that those things got. We weren't entirely sure how much people would even pick up on them, and so we've been quite shocked by some of the pleasantly shocked by some of the messages we received of people saying that really reminded me of this, or thank you for doing this. We had some really amazing messages, and sometimes things that we hadn't even considered. And I think that's the other thing, is that people will project onto your game, or they'll project onto a game that they're playing, and also fill in some of the blanks with their own experiences. So you may find as a developer that actually things may resonate with people in ways that you don't expect. And again, that's another really powerful thing about games.
I mean, I think it's a relief that, at least off the top of my head, while there are games out there that, you know, do get mental health representation wrong, I don't see malice in the sort of the intent to develop those games. It feels like, you know, where there are harmful depictions of mental health, it's because they're playing to a cliche. Like, for example, you know, Outlast is a very scary game, but it's also set in an asylum for no discernible reason. Whereas, you know, there are other games like the Town of Light, for example, that reviewed very well, and people really felt like their depiction of you know, the abandoned asylum in Italy was actually, you know, very tastefully done. I personally had issues with it, but then that's another part of the puzzle, is that everyone is different, and everything they sort of you know, everyone's going to bring their own stuff to the table. You know, like yeah, so where I felt like it actually failed the protagonist in revealing at one moment that, you know, the asylum, which is shown as this horrible oppressive atmosphere, they've actually got it right, and there is something wrong with her, and you can't trust her as a narrator. It's like, well, it felt like it undid a lot of the game's message for me, but that's something I took from it and not necessarily others. So it's a difficult ground to tread, and, you know, as I understand it, development is not easy under any circumstance. So yeah, it's a relief that there aren't people out there deliberately trying to be like, we're going to tackle mental health in a really awful way in this game.
Yeah, I think mental health is, you can't get it right entirely when it comes to producing a game, whether you're dealing with loss like in Roki, whether you're dealing with depression, suicide. It's everyone's experience of mental health is unique. It's entirely based on your life experiences, how you react to it, your biological makeup. And you can't get it perfect, but you can make a difference. And I think that's what a lot of game developers are going for now. And it's making a difference, which is the main thing.
I think it's really interesting with Roki. I don't think at any point we really set out to make a game about, you know, we actually started off with fantastical adventure, Scandinavian folklore, and then, you know, when you look, okay, well, we want to make realistic characters, you know, and how, you know, and they are kind of quite stylized and cartoony looking. And I think that's the thing of like, well, if you want to make realistic characters, you know, everyone is dealing with something, and, you know, no one is like normal, and so everyone's working through something. And actually, in some ways, you're going to make an interesting character, they're always going to be dealing with something. And it's like, well, what is that? If it's, you know, it's an exterior threat, but, you know, actually when you look internally, make an interesting character about what kind of things they're tackling, and then you start to draw from some of your own experiences. Yeah, so I think it's I suspect that more of the prominence of mental health issues in games is people drawing from their own experiences, and wanting to make interesting and believable characters, and yeah, and to do that, there'll always be some kind of conflict or someone working through something. So I think that's yeah, it's exciting to see developers drawing on their own experiences or their team's experiences, and yeah, and creating characters that are more nuanced and working through things in their games.
I mean, if anyone else has any other points, feel free to go for it. If not, I'm going to segue. I wish I had an actual segue. That would make that funny. I'd fall off it. It's fine.
They're not street legal in the UK, so.
Oh yeah, they're not.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what?
Disappointing.
You can only use a Segway on private land in the UK.
Oh man.
They're
Well,
not
that's
street
why
My
legal.
none of us
commute
have a
has
segue.
been
There you
ruined.
That's the reason. That's the reason.
Oh, sorry, we derailed your segue. What were you going to say?
Oh yeah.
We're going to move into gaming as a coping mechanism, which is a big point for me. I'm going to show a little video from one of special effects folks, Becky, who also known as, I think, Eye Gaze Girl.
And she has severe quadriplegic cerebral palsy. So she uses eye gaze, which is an eye-controlled system. So yeah, Becky was kind enough to...
Hi guys, this is Eye Gaze Girl, also known as Becky. Video games are so much fun, and I like designing things and exploring virtual worlds. I like the challenge of some games and finding different ways to be creative. When I play video games, I fully immerse myself in the game as it helps me to relax and forget my troubles. In my everyday life, I am faced with many challenges and struggles. This can sometimes make me feel upset and frustrated. But over the years, with the help of special effects, I've had support to find the right adaptive equipment and what works well for me to enable me to play video games, and that help has been invaluable. There are lots of things that I can't do myself, but I can play video games on my own, which gives me a good sense of independence and achievement. I love playing video games with my friends, and it has given me more in common with them and has allowed me to be totally included in the fun as an equal player. I think it has changed the way that my friends see me, and it makes me feel less disabled. Having access to video games has changed my life and brought me happiness when I've felt sad. To others, they are just video games, but to me they are so much more than that. Goodbye.
So Becky spoke a few years ago at one of our we have a winter get together at the special effect offices, and she did a whole speech about how special effects had been helping her, and one of my favorite memories from that is that she was just describing the games that she was playing. And you know, the stuff that she was doing in Minecraft. She was building like a theater and putting on a play with her friends, which is that sort of community and escapism element of games. And then these like shared experiences that I think everyone has with games in some way or another. Like she was saying that she loved playing The Sims, and she loved killing them off in different ways. And it was just brilliant to see this like really sweet little girl being like, yes, I love to kill them in different ways. And all the adults in the room going, ha. And just everyone who's ever played The Sims before thinking, yeah, I've done that.
Anyone who's played The Sims are like,
you just sell the pool
What if I
ladder.
remove this door?
Yeah, take that ladder out the pool, there you go. And it's just that that shared inclusion and community.
I think especially right now with obviously the whole situation going on in the world, the worldwide nature of games has been a very big way to bring people together, which, like, obviously it's not the same as being able to sit down and play in person, but you still get to talk. You still get to talk to people. You get to meet new people. Like, I've got a couple games and things that I had brand new groups that I hadn't met before lockdown that we now all meet and play fairly regularly, and it's a good way to meet new people and to just be able to escape from the world for a while.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I'm guessing some games, even if they're not really intended to be, can be quite meditative in the way of if it's a simple thing, it's something that's very absorbing. I'm guessing just everyone, obviously, at the moment is very worried about all manner of things. Like everything is really concerning at the moment. So having games is a way of like unhooking your brain or hooking your brain to something else, and through a period of time, just getting out of a cycle of thinking about things. I think is a really powerful thing as games. Coping thing. And like I think one of the games I really like to play to unwind is Avarice You. Just because it's like kind of like it's really like logic problems of how you pair these things together, and you really have to get well this and that, and you have to really focus on it. There's no time pressure. The music's kind of cool. Yeah, I think it's a really It's really, and it's some in weird ways, some of the games that you don't expect to be there like relaxing. So I'm a big fan of the From Software games, and I find them quite relaxing to play in a weird way. Because even though obviously, like, they're quite hard or can be quite hardcore, there's something about that being so absorbing, and you have to really be there and focusing on it. There's you can't really be thinking about anything else. And obviously, there's games that are just quite chill, Animal Crossing as well. So
I've been playing Townscaper recently. It's just this little tool where you like build a town, but the sound design has just something about it. It just mesmerizes me, and I'm like, oh, blinky blonky, put down the town, lovely.
Blinky blonky.
Yeah. Blinky blonky music.
That's how I program.
Tetris is another one that has been proven to help. First of all, it helps prevent PTSD. Like the research, if I'm not mistaken, and I hope somebody corrects me if I am, but the research was that if you give somebody Tetris to play after a traumatic event, they're less likely to lock in that traumatic event. They're less likely to develop PTSD. And that was really interesting in my childhood, growing up with a rather traumatic childhood. I played a lot of Tetris, and looking back at it, I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know it was a coping mechanism. It was a way for me to walk away and step away, and then, okay, we're arguing here. Okay, I'm gonna walk away, and I would just play Tetris. Like, I had this little, like, literally was a screen. It had like 500 games or something on it, and they were all like block and cube based. And so I had Tetris, and to this day, like, when I get stressed out or something, I sit down and I play Tetris. Although Nintendo's made it a little stressful with Tetris 99.
Tetris.
Yeah,
it's still awesome, and I still love it, and I still find it very, very soothing and removing from the current, like Alex was saying, removing from the current environment and putting you in somewhere else.
I think one of the remarkable things about kind of seeking out that experience, and it's something that video games are very well positioned to deliver, is consistency. Because, some people, when they're stressed, they'll go for a walk, or they'll read a book, or they'll cook something, or whatever it is. Obviously variables can get in the way. It might be raining, or they might be just fatigued and the walk isn't rewarding or whatever. But video games, by their very nature, each time you boot them up, are largely the same. You get the same experience from Tetris, playing against 98 other people on the internet versus a 500 game screen. And for me, like, Stardew Valley, I think for a lot of people is a really good game to sort of switch off. And with that, I know, like, I'll wake up, here are my animals, here are the tasks I have to do today. The music is always a delight, and it's that consistency, but combined with that sense of agency, I think, that really makes it such a useful media to sort of step into. Although I have to say, I didn't know anything about the kind of the mental health representation in Stardew Valley, because when I play it, I don't talk to anyone. I'm in year maybe.
That's a way to cope too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But,
it's my player is a hermit, basically. Like, I go into town every few weeks to buy seeds. Whereas there is still one person I've not met, and I'm on year 3 or 4, I think. Just because I just like plugging away at my farm,
There must be like urban legends about the farmer.
Yes, the man with the mayonnaise empire, I think they call me.
mayonnaise costs a lot of money. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it too. I actually don't like mayonnaise in real life, so the idea of running a mayonnaise empire is horrifying.
That's where the money is.
There's money in the mayonnaise stand.
Stardew and Animal Crossing have been a big one for kind of a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
I was saying before we started recording that I part of my job with special effects is to go to the real world events, which are obviously hi EGX. Hello. And I was saying I miss certain things like that I just didn't think I'd miss, like the train travel and the tube and the underground and all that. And I miss that to an extent that I've actually started building a special effects stand in Animal Crossing, and we do a special effects stream every other Friday, and we've had guests come to the special effects stand in Animal Crossing. And there's this really nice kind of, I don't know, familiarity, and you can build that, nice space to enjoy for yourself. And yeah, it's been a weird time.
That is an understatement.
Yeah, yeah.
With Animal Crossing, that's probably because it's almost like a bonsai tree, isn't it? You kind of just get things just how you want them, and it's almost like you're constructing this safe space, somewhere you feel really comfortable and you have control over it. There's really. I think I played it. I've made like a Twin Peaks island. So basically, I had like made it like the lodge, and then I had like a diner, and it's that kind of thing of like, oh, I'll get this, and you're slowly building up this thing. It's very, a very rewarding thing to keep on leveling up, and then you stand back and go, my kingdom,
my mayonnaise empire.
There it is.
That's the name of the panel now.
No, my hidden shame.
No, I had a experience the other day. I had like a really down day the other day, and I managed to get up and do I've been doing Ring Fit Adventure at the moment, and I managed to do my Ring Fit for the day, and that was kind of my only achievement for that day, apart from getting out of bed, which always counts. But games do have that. It's like with Stardew, you get to the next day and you've sold your items and you fed your animals, and you do feel like you've achieved something. It's something that is tangible compared to the rest of the world.
Grounding,
yes, that is a word.
Yeah, I've started using Ring Fit Adventure quite a lot recently, because like a lot of people, I've stopped leaving the house very much because of COVID restrictions, and I stopped exercising at all, and it's been a really nice motivator just to go on it and be like, all right, well, I may not do as much as I did yesterday, or maybe I'll do a bit more. It doesn't really matter as long as I strap a Joy-Con to my leg and sort of bounce around the living room for a bit. I think that game is a really good example of just gamifying, as annoying as that word is, things that are good for you. It's all positivity. It doesn't guilt trip you at all as a game. It doesn't say, oh, you didn't do as well today as you have before, or it's been X number of days since we last seen you. It's all just like, you're doing great, keep going. Like, you need to stand up now, but take your time. Are you drinking enough water? Like, it's a game that is just delighted you've shown up, and I think that is something that is really nice for people to get as a targeted form of feedback, especially if they may not get that from other avenues in life, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the fact that actually not just about, it's got yoga stuff in it as well. It's got the relaxation things in it as well. So it's not just about like bulking up or getting stronger. It's also about balance and relaxation as well, which it feels very well rounded. Really enjoy it. I was very skeptical because I thought it might be like quite gimmicky. So I think a lot of people have maybe expected it to be quite gimmicky, and then given it a go and like, wow, this feels like really, like it's really well considered and really fun to play. And really inviting. Yeah, I find it really quite a chilled place to be.
Yeah. Unlike if everybody remembers the Wii Fit board, which was
Oh my
judgmental bastard.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it had a lot to say about your weight, about how long it's been, how that was an attempt at creating a fitness game that did motivate quite a few people and got people into exercising. But like, I feel like Ring Fit Adventure does a way more inviting, kind of to echo what you were saying, a way more inviting job of doing the same thing.
It's a bit like that person you walk past in a crowd that just gives you a side eye for no reason, and it's like,
Yeah.
what?
What do I do?
I'm just walking, leave me alone.
That's hopefully a good example of Nintendo getting it not quite right the first time and then listening to community feedback. And I think just going back to what we were saying about how you can never really get it 100% right with mental health representation in games, and that's okay because the experience is different for every single person, and any community manager can tell you you're never going to please everybody.
Right.
But there are things that people can do as writers, developers, game makers in general, to try and get it as right as possible. And talking to charities such as Safe in Our World, can really help with that. So I encourage people to reach out, speak to your community as well, because there will be community members who go through different things, and just talk to people. And Safe in Our World are a fantastic resource for that.
Thank you for plugging the charity that I should be plugging.
You're welcome.
I really
Cross
appreciate
charity
somebody
plugging
did it.
there. Look at that.
Everyone plug each other. It makes things easier.
Good.
I think from an indie developer point of view as well, it's really good to get, if you are making a game that tackles like some issues, whatever they may be, it's good to get extra hours in your game, especially if you're a tiny team. We do a lot of user testing and focus testing stuff, and that's not just about like, is the puzzle too hard? It's also about the themes and the writing. I think if you are quite close to something, it's always good to get an extra perspective, and because like different things will resonate with different people. It's always good to see not just user testing your design, but also the story and the themes, and seeing how they land with people, and just like whether people is there anything they find problematic about it, or and sometimes it can be quite subtle things, but it's always good to do. I think I think user testing and getting other eyes in your game, because you can be quite close to it, is just a really good thing to do, just to get different people's perspective on things, see how what different things people take.
I think that really nicely segues into community.
Yes.
Right?
It's as if we planned it.
Planning here in this house at this time of year.
In this house, we do not plan.
I love how you go for "in this house we do not plan," and I just immediately went for
Steamed hams.
hams.
There it is.
My age is showing. I went for the meme. Community is a very big thing, and the idea of one person speaking up, giving someone else the courage to be able to speak up, is actually why I started my site in the first place. It's very much like games and things recently have been doing a lot more where they are opening up those conversations and those opportunities for people to either reach out for help or to find people who, like, mental health is a very isolating thing. You feel like something's wrong with you. You feel like you are the only one in that situation. You feel that people will not understand, and I think games are doing a very good job recently of building those communities where you realize, as much as your experience is unique, you aren't alone, which is dramatic. Most dramatic thing I've said today.
I don't think that's dramatic at all.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
I have a great example of that from the Special Effect Volunteer Squad. We have a great number of members. They're all absolutely amazing. Shout out to the squad. I'm still calling it a squad. I'm staying in 2016. Thank you very much. But two of my volunteers both have EPD, and one of them was talking about it on social media, and they had followed each other, and the other one was, I think, just diagnosed and really struggling with it, and they ended up chatting and connecting and making good friends and just being there for each other, really. And it's just this wonderful example of how, if you're comfortable talking about your mental health struggles or just talking to people generally, and again, this word's kind of like a bit like gamification, and it's been going around all over the place, but just normalizing the idea of talking about mental health as something that everyone goes through in one way or another, or and that's it. I've seen firsthand how much that can help people, and it's been a really lovely thing to watch.
Normalizing is spot on the word of kind of, because it is completely normal.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's just
statistically, I think it's 1 in 4 people now will suffer from a mental health condition in their lifetime. And it's normal. It's not something that needs to be like completely fixed or removed. Like, for me, I've very much accepted that as much as my conditions affect me, it is also a part of me, and it does impact the decisions I've made. Like, I would not be sat here doing this if it wasn't for what I've been through. and obviously there are some bits I wish I could have skipped or hit no thank you on, but these experiences make you the people that you are, and it's, I think games allowing people to realize that and to go, no, you aren't alone. Like, look around, and it's more of a, because obviously if someone tells you you're not alone, it's a bit like when someone tells you to calm down when you're having an anxiety attack. It's like, really, I never thought of that. Thank you.
Very helpful.
So helpful.
This helps.
Have you
me
tried
right now.
not being depressed?
Yes. Well, that's
Oh,
none
thanks,
of us
I'm
tried
alright.
that. No, nobody with depression has ever tried not being depressed, and or smiling, or just laughing, or my favorite, just enjoying the sunset. You know, stuff like that, or doing some yoga. The list is endless. You can tell. I can go on, but in terms of communities, my community was literally built around talking about mental health in an open way, and that has been the biggest honor from starting a community. I remember my first stream, sitting there, you know, swallowing hard and being like, okay, so I have depression, and yeah. To a place where it's bigger than any one person in our community, where it's an idea, it's a concept. You know, we've created this idea of be the light, which is, you know, if you feel like the world is dark and people are crap and nobody will be kind to you, try to go out there and initiate that kindness and love, and whatever else you're looking for yourself, give that to somebody else, and you know, and maybe you'll get it back. And mental health is, like you said, it's just health, but your mental health. There's physical health and there's mental health, and you won't just because you don't, you know, suffer from a diagnosable condition in your life doesn't mean you'll never feel down and like you're worthless or useless or your efforts were for nothing, or any of those things that, you know, for people with depression can get to extremes. And just recognizing that it is, you know, if I have to listen to poor Barbara, we've been picking on her, but if I have to listen to, you know, Barbara tell me about her husband's back condition and how he's getting surgery, and, you know, and I sit in when I used to be in an office and I used to listen and give empathy, I feel like I should be able to also tell back to Barbara, you know, I really felt depressed and I had a hard time yesterday and I couldn't get out of bed, and that's why I wasn't at work, and not be judged for it. And if we can create, the more media in general that we can create that makes that normal, the more normal it is for, you know, people coming up in the world, and that's it. That's the goal. That's the goal of safe in our world. That's the goal of really just being human, just accepting what the human condition is with all of its negatives and positives.
I am.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was really well said.
Sounds awesome.
That was long.
I think sort of the only thing I really have to follow with that is that, I mean, like, you know, I've tried to do sort of community facing stuff with mental health as part of my work, but I have a group of friends that I play Sea of Thieves with a lot. And before you sort of go out sailing in Sea of Thieves, it's a really good idea to stock up on cannonballs and fruit and planks of wood and just general supplies. And I don't really know when it started, but that time has sort of just become the bit where we check in on one another, because no one's doing anything particularly complicated, but it takes up about 10 to 15 minutes. And it's always at the start of an evening. So be like, hey, how's it going? Be like, but more often than not, it's got to the point now where it'll be like, how's it going? It'll be like, rubbish, here's why, and bang, we're straight into mental health discussion, which is nice, because it carries on for as long as we need it to, and then we go, right, should we go to sea? It's like, yeah, and then we immediately go into just dumb pirate fun. And I don't know, like, there's just something about Sea of Thieves and about the sort of the small sort of community of friends I'm a part of that we play it regularly. They just sort of, they clicked, and it meant that, yeah, we've sort of accidentally built up a sort of boozy support group for one another, which is, yeah, it's pleasant.
No, I mean, like, the people that know me more personally will know I've been like a big part of certain communities for a good few years now, and like through some of the more formative experiences of my life. And a lot of these people that I play games and things with now is very much, we kind of have an unspoken kind of system where it's, you do understand when someone's having an off day, or you understand when someone's like needs to step away because their anxiety is peaking or something. And that is, having the games around that gives something that, I mean, for me, it's one of my main issues has always been with anxiety is when you're about to have an anxiety attack, part of that anxiety comes from then being the center of attention during that moment. And it's like, no, thank you. And having something central to focus on, like a game, and just stepping away from the mic for a while has allowed, I think it has allowed a lot more people to be a bit more vocal.
And I mean, hopefully, in the future, when things are back to normal, although I'm kind of loath to use that term, that will make having that conversation, saying that I'm not okay in this situation, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, just need to go be quiet for a bit, will normalize being able to say that and make it kind of a more accepted thing that people just do. It's just so important to be able to remove yourself from the situation occasionally, so hopefully that is a bit more normalized in future.
I found events have a lot more safe spaces and quiet zones nowadays, which very, very much appreciated. Like they have like quiet zone tents and stuff. Like I know Checkpoint did one at EGX in October. I don't know, time is a madness.
There are also the AFK rooms at PAX, which are delightful. I went to one when I was really anxious before a panel I had to run. So I was interviewing Mike Pondsmith, so it was proper like bucket list stuff for me. And I just went and sat there in this nice little atrium. At one point somebody came over and whispered to me to ask if I wanted some water, and apart from that it was just this little oasis of calm. And you know, occasionally maybe you'd accidentally make eye contact with somebody, you'd both give each other a little smile, and then I was able to step out straight back into an arcade zone that had loads of, you know, laser sound effects going off at ear splitting volumes. And it was such a brilliant lifeline, I think. So yeah, it's nice that those spaces are becoming more common. I just wish they would become a bit more prevalent, you know, like I think
these big events where we can all come together about something we really enjoy, like video games, I think once we have a community understanding that these are needed rather than these are a fun little extra.
Yeah.
I think also the presence of some of those zones at the big events, almost, it's just really good to highlight to people that there is an option there. People might not have even considered that. Why do I feel a certain way like 7 hours into this day? And like actually they go, oh, there's this thing on the map. What is it? And it's just kind of actually, they may not even identify that they have a need within themselves. I think the presence of those. I think we were very fortunate that the Checkpoint one was really close to where we were demoing Rookie. EGX, it was really nice to basically be able to step out and sit in the beanbag and just have some time. I think it's almost like they're kind of there's a need there, and actually the fact that the people who are aware of it can go and utilize it, and it's really good for raising the visibility of people who don't quite know that they need it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And on that note, I think we will round things up, because we may chat all day otherwise, and we all have other things to do. I want to say a big thank you to the four of you for joining me for this. It means a great deal to me, and I hope it'll mean a great deal to anyone watching this. And
thanks to you for running such a nice, well-rounded panel. It's been really nice to come on and have a chat.
Really, really awesome.
Hope everyone else enjoys the rest of EGX Digital. Be sure to check out everyone's links. Be sure to check out Special Effect, Safe in Our World, Roki, and Dicebreaker. And me as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I forgot myself.
Yeah, do go to Mind Games. It's a fantastic resource. Like, honestly, go.
And I hope everyone has a lovely day. Be sure to take time for yourself if you